So, I've made it no secret that by far my favorite Primarch is Vulcan. Burning Eldar children aside, the dude basically has done, the dude is probably the most wholesome, I use air quotes for that, of the Primarchs. He's definitely the, out of, most of them, he's the one who's committed the least amount of war crimes. Am I right? Like, he's the one who's basically been like, yeah, I've the only one who's committed the least amount of atrocities out of all of them, along with his sons, the Salamanders. But I would dare say, if I was to say another Primarch that I've really come to enjoy, and one I really have found, some really deep meaning to, I would say that the Primarch is probably one that I think is probably the most fascinating and by far the most tragic. I would have to look no further than Angron. And I know what you're thinking already out the gate. Angron? But hold on, Multi. The dude literally is just a giant rage spasm. He's nothing more, nothing less than a wild animal. So why do you think he's the most interesting of the Primarchs? Out of all of them, why do you think he deserves to get the title of the most interesting and also the most tragic Primarch? Have you seen what he did to people, even to his own sons? And yeah, but I do think that's all, there's all in a good reason. So let me just talk about why I think Angron is by far the most interesting Primarch, and arguably, maybe even the best Primarch out of all of them. So, why do I think Angron is arguably the best Primarch, or most tragic? It kind of depends. It really does depend, and maybe he could be both. Who knows? But here's the thing. You can make this argument that Angron is the most, at the bare minimum, the most tragic of the Primarchs. And yes, when it comes to tragedy, that BG song really connects with a lot of the Primarchs, whether it be both corrupted or loyalist. I mean, you can make the argument that Guilliman is the most tragic because he's a man out of time, and aside from Lion, which he doesn't know, he thinks all of his brothers are dead. He lives now in an Imperium that's a shell of its former self. He's now, trapped in basically what is a hellscape for the rest of his world. He now has to fight in the name of a father who never loved him. That's a lot of tragedy. And you could make that, and again, aside from Lion, he doesn't even know he's alive. He thinks all of his family is dead. So he's just carrying the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders and can't stop for a fucking second to slow down. Now, Angron, I would argue, had it worse off, because you see, Guilliman, and no disrespect to Guilliman, he is best Blueberry. Let's not get it twisted. But the thing of it is that Guilliman had a family. He had a life. He had a mother. Angron, the only family he had were those in the pits while the nobility was making make them kill each other until Angron pulled a Spartacus. And then they proceeded to fight the High Riders throughout the land. It was just a constant war with the High Riders until the war came to a very bloody end without Angron. Because remember, Big E just showed up and was like, "Hi, son, here you go." And Angron was like, No, wait, I have to, let me have my final battle. And Angron and the Emperor's like, nah. Also, those things in your head, don't worry about them. I'm sure it's fine. But that's the thing, that's another thing, is that Angron's life was just born in pain ever since he had the butcher's nails in his skull. This dude has literally lived off of, pain and anger, his own pain and anger, and the only time he hasn't felt that kind of rage and what have you is because the dude has to inflict that pain on others in order to, soothe the just agony within him. To an extent. And, yeah, obviously Angron didn't exactly have the best family, but when you read, especially in Betrayer, there's a great moment between him and Lorgar, where Lorgar, even though, yes, he is kind of manipulating Angron, he does take Angron back to Nysaria, and they have this conversation where Angron is just like, I was supposed to die here. The Primarch that I am is nothing compared to the, to the gladiator I was. And it's just an emotional moment where Angron's just metaphorically spilling his guts to, to Lorgar. He is just bawling all of this, pent-up rage he's had towards the Emperor, towards Terra. He didn't care about Horus. He basically now feels like he's free. There's even a moment in another short story where when they're killing off the loyalist members of their own family, of their sons, excuse me, he's talking to a dying loyalist, Korogar, and he's like, none of you got it. Like, I'm finally free. And therein lies another problem, because at the end of the day, this is what I think makes Angron, truly tragic, is that he's not free. He never will be free, because now he's traded you can make the argument that the Emperor, enslaved him and forced him into, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but now he's just a puppet of Khorne. And not even like his favorite, it's his son Karn that is the true favored champion of Khorne. Now he's just he may be a demon Primarch incapable of dying, but he's still he's now enslaved. He's traded one slave master to another in Khorne. So yeah, he's gotten all this power, and he's proclaimed himself like, I'm finally free. But the sad fact of the matter is, he's not free, and he never will be free. That's the problem. That's, I think, what makes him so interesting, is that he fought so hard. Angron fought tooth and nail, literally at points, to be free. To be freed of himself from the Emperor, from the High Riders, from everything in his life. And Angron, at the end of the day, at the end of it all, Angron just sold his soul, literally, to figuratively and literally, to a new master. And there really isn't much he can do about it. There's absolutely fuck all he can do about it. At the end of it all, he literally just put himself back in just chains again. He freed himself from one chain by, he broke the chains of the High Riders, only being shackled metaphorically by the Emperor, broke those chains, and now it's just a cycle. And I'm going to take my girlfriend's words for it, because I've explained a lot of Warhammer to her, and she's just like, this all could have been solved with some fucking therapy. She's not wrong, guys. Let's be honest. She is in no way, shape, or form wrong in that regard. But I think, like, still the fact of the matter remains. The big thing that you have to take into account is that Angron was also right. At the core of it all, Angron was right. During his battle with Leman Russ, when he was fighting, Russ, he literally spells out that the Imperium is no different from the people before him. Like, he just spells it out for Russ, where he's like, we haven't done anything different. We're forcing people to comply. That's no different from when back on Terra, we would fight for wars over resources or race or religion. We'd just kill each other. Our father can, beat his chest about and, proclaim that, oh, we are but, servants to, we are great, we're great heralds of the empire. We're bringing in a golden age with the Great Crusade. When in reality, we're no better. We never were better. Like, we're just one dictatorship in a shinier coat. That's literally all it is and all it ever was. So, and I find it funny because Russ is just like, you were wrong and all that. He doesn't really have Russ doesn't really have anything to back it up. Like, he doesn't have anything. He just calls him a heretic and is like, oh, you're wrong. And Angron's like, why am I wrong? And Russ doesn't answer that question. So, yeah, Angron literally just said, like, he just said the quiet part out loud. But unfortunately, the person he was talking to was Leman Russ, and Leman Russ is just, well, Russ. But yeah, so I think Angron has done some horrendous shit. Let's not get it, don't get it twisted. I understand and I'm well aware that Angron has done some pretty horrendous shit in Warhammer 40k. I mean, obviously he's a demon Primarch now. That's not exactly you get that for being nice. But still, he's a fascinating character regardless. He's this interesting character who had nothing short of just wanting to be free. He was still the slave. He was still in the mindset of he was nothing more than a slave who begged to be free, and just found himself enshackled from one chain to another. And that's why I think he might be the most interesting Primarch, or, I don't know if he'd be the best Primarch, best is, subjective, but I will say that as far as Primarchs go, he's arguably the one who has the most complexity to him. And again, I'm well aware that, that's such a, loaded sentence, because Angron's, a giant walking rage spasm. So, take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. Anyway, but I'm going to leave it up to you guys. What do you guys think of all this? Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys don't? And who do you think, whether they be traitor or loyalist, is the most interesting Primarch? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.